Welcome to the Chase Merrell Podcast. Today, I am your host, Chase Merrell. I've never said that before, but today's the first day. This is the 52 Project episode with a guest of mine, a friend of mine, that, again, part of the 52 Project I'll talk about in a second. But welcome to my friend, Ulysse.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, this is cool, man. So, Ulysse, how old are you real quick?
20.
Okay. And that is probably, I think, goes for the youngest guest I've had so far on the podcast. You know, that's so well done. Like,
thank you.
It's a big deal. So 52 Project, this whole thing is 52 conversations, 52 weeks with 52 people who have made an impact on my life. And you're one of them. You're here. You're on my list, man. And it's just so cool to get the chance to sit down even in person and have a conversation today that I know is going to be fun. I really believe it's going to impact and encourage people. And I hope it encourages you, you know, because that's also part of this for me, to get to sit down with people that have made an impact on my life, to share that with them in some of those moments, but that they would walk away from conversations like this and feel encouraged to continue to be who who God made them to be, but keep doing what God's called them to do. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, totally. I think that it's really reassuring to know that I've made somewhat of an impact on you.
Heck yeah.
however small it might be.
Yeah. So here's what I'll do. Introduce yourself for just a little bit, kind of a snapshot, who you are, where you are, you know, within the spectrum of this season. And then I'll give people just a little bit of a background about how we know each other, and then just jump into the conversation today.
Right. Yeah. So, as I said, I'm 20. I'm right now in a season of kind of studying. I'm a student at Pepperdine University down in California, but currently studying at the University of Oxford in England. And I'm studying finance and philosophy.
Yeah, which is a unique.
I get that a lot. Yeah. But I really think, like, behind that, you know, for a lot of jobs within finance, kind of what I tell people is, you know, you can learn all of the technicals, but then when you actually get on the job, there's a lot of analysis and kind of the analytical side of things that I really think that I gain from philosophy of learning how to think well, not only knowing, you know, all of the math and the technical side behind finance, but knowing how to apply to something that's really important. And that's where the two majors kind of overlap.
Yeah. I think that's a very unique perspective to be able to have at 20 years old.
Thank you.
I mean, let's call it what it is. And that's, I mean, part of, you know, what we'll talk about today, what I will really talk about today, in about who you are and who I've gotten to know you to be, is that you are an extremely unique individual in so many different ways, but in ways that are extremely impressive, based upon when I look around the world around me now, and I see the next generation, if you will, like, you know, we're just under 12 years apart in age. So we're not like totally disconnected in generation, but you are pretty representative of Gen Z. And when I look around that group of people that are coming up into the world, I just don't see a lot of them that look like you. Yeah. In the way that at 20 you've taken life, not just what life has given you, or what, you know, the circumstances that you've had no control over, but also the things you have had control over, and you've made the most of it in a way that's been extremely impressive. I keep using that word. I don't know if there's a better word, but it's not just impressive. Like, it's not just like looking at you and being like, wow, he's so smart, or he's, you know, got so much charisma or so much knowledge. It's something different, you know, and we've had conversations, you know, over our relationship in the last 5 years, about some of these things, but like God has got a unique call and mark on your life that has made Holly and I we've seen it really from the beginning, but it's continued to just blossom as you've grown into a young man and continue to step forward in what is in front of you. So, let me do this. Let me take it back to just give people a snapshot as to how we're connected. Sure. So that they have some framework for the conversation a little bit more. When Holly and I got called by the Lord to be up here in Olympia, Washington, in 2017, to be youth pastors at Living Water Church in Olympia. It took a while for us to feel like we wanted to do youth ministry again because we'd been youth pastors before. But at that stage, we were at a church in California where we were doing other ministry assignments that, if I'm being fully honest, I had felt like were on the next couple steps, if you will, which is a terrible way to look at ministry because it's not actually that at all.
Right.
Like, you never graduate out of there really aren't stepping stones, and there should never be. But I felt like I had kind of outgrown the youth pastory world because I was an executive pastor at that point. And so getting called back to youth ministry, I wrestled with that. And I also was like, God, you're going to have to, I feel like you're saying yes, but I also don't want to do this necessarily. You'll have to really change my heart. And he really started to do that. But part of what really began to become clear for Holly and I as we stepped back into that kind of space how the Lord was bringing us these middle school and high school students who we began to see with a different lens. And we had some amazing students back the first time we were youth pastors, but we just were not mature enough to see it this way, where we were like, oh shoot, like these aren't just high school students that were just like, low-key babysitting that their parents like hope we can help make their lives better or keep them out of trouble. Like, these are dudes that are like, or girls or guys that are like genuinely on a journey of pursuit, trying to figure some things out, trying to figure out who they are, like identity, what they're supposed to do with their life, like purpose. What I have in front of me right now is an opportunity to steward these relationships and just invest in these people with everything I can, and being there as they walk out these difficult seasons or tough questions, wrestle with doubt, all of these things, because they're going to change the world. Like, they're really going to impact the future of the world. And it's not just like a low-key babysitting job. And you are one of the students, and I have, a handful, but I can count on my one hand in our group, in our time, that Holly and I were like, he's different. We better pay attention here and not waste our opportunity to invest and be there for this young man because of what we see God doing. Will you give me a snapshot of how you came into that place? Like, where were you at with God in your life coming into the youth ministry experience when we met? Can you remember that space?
Yeah. So I grew up, with pretty much no Christian influence in my life. Up until that point, I think, at that point, my parents had gotten divorced, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And my mom, she grew up Christian. She was kind of started going back to church, but I didn't go back to church with her.
Yeah.
I never grew up in that kind of environment. And I think it was a pretty cliche introduction to church. I liked a girl who went to Living Water, and so
textbook.
And and I think my buddy Will invited me on, and I was like,
shout out to Will.
Shout out
if you're listening to this podcast.
Exactly. And I started going, and I think that I never really stopped going.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, my personality is I have a very difficult time doing things kind of part way.
Yeah.
Right. I kind of just dive in for better or for worse. And so I think maybe it was like the third or fourth time I was there, and I came up to you and I was like, I'm called to be a pastor.
Yeah.
Like, this is my life.
Yeah. I remember that moment.
I think that maybe after a little bit of a step back over time, I was like, okay, like I can be a Christian without being a pastor.
Absolutely,
I think, and in my head it was like, either or, just because of the way that I fully dive into things. But yeah, I think that starting with that, I kind of came into that season from a pretty difficult point in my life, following my parents' divorce and moving from New York to Washington. And then when I kind of felt God's call in my life to, accept him and Jesus as our savior, I think from that, came a little bit of a challenging season, just because my dad and my family over on the East Coast were atheists, and kind of communicating with that, and like how do I still live in relationship with them, I think was something that I struggled with for a long time, and still struggle with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to come back to that in a moment too, because I think that that's going to be something that for people listening to this today, that I know that there's a lot of people that wrestle with navigating relationships that mean a lot to them, especially the parental relationships, where they're trying to figure out how to honor, love everybody involved. But what happens when maybe you're feeling something different than what their expectation or hope may be about whatever it is in life, or their just belief systems are different, how to navigate that without just pushing the eject button. I think we'll dive into that, because I think you've done a really great job, and I want to hear more about it. But before that, I just want to acknowledge in that season that we watched, you really step into accepting, Jesus in a way that was real to you. Mm-hmm. But it didn't necessarily mean you didn't have more questions or doubts still that you were trying to figure out, kind of wrestle through, which I appreciated. Like you were all in, you did realize, okay, maybe I can do this without being a pastor, but there was something real you felt. It was obvious to both of you and myself and, all the other people in our leadership team. Like what you felt was real. It was sincere. It wasn't just a camp high, or a conference high, it was something real. And that was materialized and evidenced over the weeks and months and really years that followed of your pursuit of that, your pursuit of discovering more, trying to learn, press in, asking the tough questions rather than avoiding them and just being like, whatever. Your pursuit of me, I remember just, like there was a resiliency, and that was uncommon, I feel like, for younger people as well. Like maybe the fear of rejection, or the fear of like, well, if he doesn't respond or text me back, or if he's not available or whatever, then I'll stop asking. You didn't stop asking. And I just loved that. This dude was hungry and was willing to keep like, hey, whenever you have a chance, like love to get coffee, love to get lunch, kind of stuff. That I just loved, that tenacity that you had. The thing that stood out to me the most in your time with us as a youth ministry, as a youth student, that I think is just such a beautiful picture of who you are, is the way that you invited people, not just to church, but like into the opportunity to experience what you had experienced. And whether that was just into your home, like your mom, Kim, and stepdad, Jeff, are incredible human beings that I've gotten to know personally over this last couple of years really, really well. And they're a part of our team here at our church, and love them dearly. But, they have, as you were still living at home, I always would hear stories about just people over all the time. You would just, the hospitality, the fridge of food that your friends would just be able to just, feast on. And that world of invitation, and then translating more into even like the Jesus stuff. They're like, come with me to, youth group or this thing. You would come to Sunday night service with a new person frequently, and you'd be like, hey Chase, this is so and so, blah blah, and I'm like, what's up? It was so real for you that if you were, it was like disciple of the Gospels, disciple-esque, when people started to actually experience Jesus. The natural response was, I got to tell somebody about this and like bring them along. And I watched that in you in a really unique and inspiring way. Like it inspired me beyond just like youth pastor to student. It inspired me as a Christian. Like there were times I would leave Sunday nights, preach my guts out in a message. I'm a pastor and leading students, but meet somebody you would bring or just have some interaction that you were, and I would be like leaving there and thinking about how I could be more like that outside of the church, at Starbucks, at wherever, and be like, Ulysse has got this fearlessness that's not because he has, he doesn't, it's hard to describe, but it was special, man. And that was something that marked me when I talk about 52 people that made an impact on my life. One of the reasons why you're one of those people is because of the way you just invited people into those kind of moments without really like the fear of rejection. Not that you didn't have the fear of rejection potentially, but it was
I was rejected a lot.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, and I know some of those stories. I think that's part of what, like, it was. You just kept going. And I recognize, like, this dude is like, there's something special here. And so, thank you for being that kind of person back even in that season. Because for Holly and I, you were one of the people, as we were trying to go, is this really what you called us back into? That God was like, yes. Mm-hmm. You see him? He's part of why I called you guys back up here to be involved, because you're going to have a piece, a small piece of this young man's life that is important for you to be a part of, for the things that I want to do in and through him for the future. And so thank you for letting me get to be a part of that. So that little chunk of youth ministry. So Pepperdine College, you had this unique opportunity as well in this last season. Can you just tell me the story? Dude, you're at Oxford right now.
I am.
What the heck? First of all, you're 20 and just decided to just be like, I feel like I'm going to go to Oxford. So, like, will you, just for people to understand a little bit of that scope, I know you're a humble dude and you're not going to be like, well, but will you give me a glimpse for the people listening? Like, how did you go from Pepperdine to just like a real quick little trip to Oxford for a semester?
Right. So I was actually doing a study abroad program through Pepperdine in London this past summer.
Yeah.
And one of my professors there used to be a professor at Oxford.
Okay.
And I guess he really enjoyed the things that I wrote, and he encouraged me to apply for this program and kind of gave me a recommendation to it. And so I applied and got in, and here I am.
Here you are.
Yeah, there's not much more to it than that.
But except for the fact that, like, the percentage of people that could have done that and it all worked out is extremely low. Like, I'm just acknowledging, like, you just, like, decided literally that, like, you wanted to do it. That's also a picture, I think, of who you are. You're this, like, I decide I'm going to do something and I do it. It's so cool. But love that. And you're not at Oxford right now because you're
on break. Yep.
Yeah, back in the States. But yeah, you'll be back to finish up the semester. And then you'll be coming back in the summer. Is that kind of the plan?
This summer I'll be working an internship doing private wealth management in Silicon Valley. So okay. that'll take up most of my time there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then how much more of Pepperdine do you have before you'll be?
I'll have another 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just love that, and love that I want to acknowledge too, as you've been stepping into that space, you haven't wasted, from my vantage point, some of the conversations we've had over your first couple years in college, the opportunity to still be a Christian. Mm-hmm. That, is in those spaces and places that aren't necessarily quote unquote vocational ministry, but just as effective and needed in the world, especially the world we're moving into. Not that you couldn't one day or walk into an opportunity or season where you feel like, okay, I do want to be a vocational pastor. You 100% could. You pastored friends in high school. You've been a guy people have come to and probably still are when they hit a really hard time. Mm-hmm. You have that kind of heart to care for people really well. But I love that you're not in ministry right now, because I recognize, we need the church needs Christian young men and women who are dedicated to Jesus and continuing to grow in their journey with him. Not perfect, not always believing all the things all the time the right way, but like on a journey of still pursuing him and loving him and growing in him while they're in the places that God's called them to be, that are in the marketplace, in business, in all of those different sectors that we desperately need Jesus to be in those places through people. So yeah. I applaud you for that. You mentioned a little earlier just the challenge that it has been at times in your journey, and maybe even still to this day to an extent, about how to navigate the tension of parents, people in your life that raised you, loved you, poured into you, invested in your present and future, that had expectations, hopes, and dreams to some degree, but maybe not necessarily believing all of the same things, of the same values and beliefs that you have. And I've watched you navigate that from a high school student till now, a couple years after high school, with just an incredible wisdom and grace. And I want to hear more about that, because there are people that are, like I said, they're listening and going like, man, my mom wants me to be this, or to go to this college, or to, do this internship, or whatever, or my dad has this expectation I'm going to join him in this business that he's started and given his life for, and I know all he wants is the best for me, and like for me to have a successful life, but like I really want to be a baker or a writer or whatever, or pastor or whatever, and it's so not the same direction as they want and hope. How do I do that? Like, how do I honor and still love and respect the people like that in my life, but still be dedicated to the journey that I feel like I'm supposed to walk out? So I'd just love to hear your thoughts, because I know that the people that are listening that probably find themselves in that space.
Yeah. And first of all, like it's difficult. There's no easy, fix all answer, but I think that one of the things that has helped me most has been to maybe acknowledge the impacts that might have on my perception. For example, I find myself weighing my value off of like what I've accomplished, or what I've done academically,
sure.
In my career, and I think that acknowledging that is kind of an outside influence of maybe people who care about me and genuinely want to see me succeed,
right, sure.
But it's not what my value is based on.
Right.
And so I think, like, first of all, acknowledging that, being willing to turn down opportunities that might advance you in a certain way, that might not be exactly what God has called me to be, I think is something that's been the thing that I've been working on most.
Yeah.
And then first and foremost, just still loving them, right?
Yeah.
Like their family,
yeah.
They raised you. I think that loving them as best as you can is, shows Jesus through you.
Yeah.
I have two younger siblings on the East Coast, and then an older sibling, also on the East Coast actually now, but none of them know Jesus, and I think that like I could be super upfront and like always bring up my faith or
sure.
identity, but I think that would just drive them away a little bit, and so it's a mixture between hey, I'm going to church, do you want to come? Or, just not necessarily bringing it up, but just intentionally loving them and making decisions that maybe a non-Christian wouldn't in certain situations.
Yeah. I think it's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
How, when you think about the pressure to not disappoint,
mm-hmm.
Because I think to some degree that's a part of this. There's this this fear of, if I step out into this kind of lane, that I'm going to disappoint somebody that loves me and that I love. Speak to that for a moment. Like what would you say to somebody who's wrestling with that? Like how to overcome that fear or the pressure of disappointing somebody in that space?
I think, there have been times where I've disappointed my dad in choices that I've made that I've known have been best for me, and you're always going to disappoint somebody, right? I think that even, I don't know, like everybody in my life really loves and cares about me, but then there are conflict sometimes, like even with my dad or mom, who is a Christian,
right?
They both have some sort of interest,
sure,
thing that they think that I should do. Even like, as a Christian, my mom might have some sort of some sort of idea of something that she wants me to do, and unintentionally kind of puts pressure on you.
Sure.
And same with my dad. I think it's just kind of the nature of living in the world, in society, is that people have expectations for you, whether you like it or not.
Right. And that and for a lot of them, that those are motivated from a place of love.
Right.
And care.
Mostly all the time they are.
Right.
If they didn't care, they wouldn't care what I do. Right. So
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. You know, part of why I wanted to ask you to kind of speak to it is because I don't know if I've seen a lot of people in your age demographic and generation be able to navigate this kind of situation in a way that really has kept relationship the most important thing, even amongst all of the things. And, you know, where, again, like, you could have pushed the eject button and been like, you know, forget you, Dad, or forget you, Mom. Your expectations are, you know, I know that you want this, but I don't care. I'm going to go my direction. And, you know, if you don't like it, then you're out of my life. I just see a lot of that happening. And there's lots of unhealth out there, understandably so, with people and relationships, that there needs to be loving through a closed door happening for a season, or even indefinitely, for there to be what needs to happen. But I think I see a lot of people prematurely close a door on relationship because of this situation. And I think it's just unnecessary. And I think it's devastating that how many relationships get broken, or there's just years of bitterness or separation or some sense of resentment that creates a wedge. And I've just watched you not let that happen, you know, and it's just incredible, dude. And so I would just say, keep going, man. Like, you know, I know your dad and stepmom and your mom and stepdad are ridiculously proud of you. And, you know, I have conversations with your mom and stepdad often, and just like the conversation is just like, this he's different. He's incredible. Like, you know, I joke about it all the time. Like you'll be like the first, you know, late 20s president, you know. I mean,
not trying to go into politics.
I know you're not, but it'll be like one of those situations where you're just like, you know what, I've done finance for a while and philosophy, but like, it's time to lead a country. So let's do it. I just wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised somehow.
I think that's maybe speaks something about me, that I really I do all sorts of different random stuff that have no correlation, and I love it.
I love that, and you are the guy that goes in 100%, 110% on it. You know, I'm remembering some things, like you were like super into rock. I feel like rock climbing for a while.
Yeah, I still am.
Okay, come on, okay, cool.
But you know, right now I've been training for a marathon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I remember you when you're, you know, over there in Oxford, sending me a text or a Marco Polo, like, running, because you're training for like a freaking marathon. Like, what are you doing? Like, just chill, dude. Like, just be in Oxford and like read, you know. No, but you're doing that too, you know, somehow, some way.
And I'm on the rowing team. I've never done it before, but
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But I mean, like, tennis. You know, you played tennis in high school and probably still do. My wife is in fitness and nutrition and as a personal trainer, and there was a season, like, you know, she was in a gym and you were like, I want to get better at tennis and just have more strength or whatever. So like, she trained you for a little bit. I mean, just things I was like, this dude's nuts. And I love it.
That's funny.
So yeah, I just love that side of you, bro. And I think that obviously that there can be a detriment to that when, you know, but more than not, I think it's served you really well, because you've also carried that into relationships. And, you know, I think that relationships are the most important thing on the planet Earth, that we can invest in, you know, and the first one being in the relationship we have with our maker, but then after that, the people around us. You just do that really well. Here's the question I ask everybody on this podcast, to some degree, and it's the why of the podcast. The 52 Project is kind of the vehicle to get to the why, but the why really is, you know, I want to help people get freed up from the things that are holding them back, so that they can build up who they were made to be, and really step into their purpose and the dreams, the things that God, who I do believe has made them, has put in front of them to step into. So like, freed up to build up is kind of the simple boiled down point. When you think about your life, past and present, and you think about things that have held you back, what would one of those things be? And how have you overcome that or are overcoming that right now?
Yeah, I think that like the doubt that I'm not going to be good enough at it. I think that I think that at heart I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and just worrying like, okay, if I start this, like I'm not going to be very good at it. Yeah. And I think that realizing that that's okay, that I'm not going to be like the best at something if I just start it. Yeah. And so just kind of diving in and getting your feet wet a little bit, seeing if you like it, and just kind of going for it is something that I've done a lot. And if I'm interested in something, just do it. It's kind of what I've been living by recently. I think that like within the past couple months, something that I've really been thinking about is how in society we have been kind of conditioned to consume more than we create. And so something that I've been really trying to do more is, one, limit what I'm consuming to things that are productive to my creation.
Yeah, it's good.
So, not overly consuming things that aren't conducive to me being able to create. Sure. And then, kind of sitting down and creating, whether, that's, whatever that might be, whether it's writing or, whether that's painting or whatever. I think that whatever you're kind of called to do, not necessarily like a vocational calling, but more of just expressing yourself is really important. And I think that that's what I enjoy so much about your podcast is we consume so many podcasts every day, and you creating this podcast has been a motivation to me, That's cool. Because I think that you kind of took a step and said, there are all these podcasts out here, but I am capable of producing something that people actually want to listen to as well. And I think that kind of goes in line with who God created us to be, right? He created us in his image. Yeah. And the first thing he did in the Bible was create. Yeah. And if we're in his image, then we're also creators of different things. And I've been studying kind of a lot of Aristotle. And so Aristotle has two words, mimesis and catharsis. And so mimesis is kind of the almost taking something that already exists in society, whether that's like an emotion or something that happened, and then kind of remixing it, right? And then putting something else out there, which helps people to understand the original thing even better. Right. And so, like your podcast, freeing people up. I think that, taking something that already exists in society is kind of the feeling that we are maybe trapped or not really able to go and be free to do things that we are called to do. Yeah. You're kind of bringing people on, replicating that right through mimesis, and then letting it go, and people can acknowledge that and through that kind of gain a better understanding of the thing that's happening in society.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, man, I love that so much. And as this podcast experience kind of has been just continuing to unroll and unpack a little bit, everything you just described, I have been experiencing, which is every time I do this, I grow a little bit more into that space of like, I can do this, and I don't have to worry. about whatever else is out there that is going to be the exact same thing and better than what I'm trying to do here, because that's actually not the point, first and foremost. And there's going to be something in the creating of this that's going to hit people, the right people in the right place in the right time, I believe, you know. And then there's really a spirit of God thing to that for me, that I see and hope and believe that is part of it. I know that is part of it, you know, because God will just speak to people and where and when they need to know and feel something or experience something. And I pray he uses this as that. And Joe Rogan might not be able to do that for somebody, right? He's going to have a way better podcast and, you know, production and guests and all of that. But like, it may not be the thing they need to hear in that moment, like something in our conversation today.
Right.
And I love that. And I think that idea, right, of creating, whether it's a podcast or a book or music or literally anything, a business, a dream, a movie, a video, it doesn't have to just be in the arts. Like, it could be, you know, it's something in some form of scientific, you know, development, engineering. But you're so dead on, dude, about that creating thing being hardwired in our DNA. Like, the Imago Dei, being made in the image of God, really is to operate in that creator space. And I think for me, what I'm on the journey of discovering is that as I create, it is a reflection of the ultimate creator, because he's the source of creativity. Yeah. And I can't create something out of my own anything. And I think even people that don't believe in him don't understand how their creation, their art, their gift is echoing and reflecting the very image, or, you know, pointing people to the fact that they have a creator that's given them that ability to do that. And I think there's a lot of people that have so much of that in them that they're not stepping into for so many different reasons. There's so much untapped that the world needs. It's not just more content. It's not just more stuff. It's not just more books or more songs or more podcasts, but it is people stepping into that God-given, called free space
to create.
That I think is a part of what, you know, you just totally, really beautifully communicated. And so speaking of that, so freed up, you know, which is for me a really important part of the equation, freed up to build up, freed up because I do really, my personal journey has been, I'll be 32 this year, has been that majority of my life. Although I feel like I've lived a full life up to this point, I feel like I've lived it to the fullest in a lot of my seasons. I still feel like I have a whole life I haven't lived because of being held back by my own insecurities and fears of what people will think. Kind of my story, right? And so I recognize, like, before people can really be in what they were made to do, they might have to get freed up of some stuff. And so I love purpose. I love your why. I love all that stuff. I think it's really important. But like, sometimes people can't even see that until they get unshackled, until they get that thing broken off of them. And I'm motivated to help people see they can, and to discover what it is, so they really can give free, so then they can run, you know, 100% towards that building thing of what they're made to build, what they're made to be, all that. Just kind of wrapping up the conversation, when I think about the building side of your life, what you're in, where you are going, to build up who you're made to be. Maybe share a little bit about what you could see, if you could see anything, when you think about 10, 20, 30 years down. I almost imagine this as like a time capsule moment. Okay. That 10 years from now, that you'll have to look back on and watch again, you know, with people in your life that mean something to you, you know, maybe a family, you know, whatever, and go like, I can't believe I said that then, and I'm actually experiencing it now, or I've already moved beyond it because I've already experienced it and into something even greater. Yeah. What would you 10 years from now go like, man, I want to be in that?
Yeah. So something that I've been really wrestling with recently is that I've gotten so many really cool opportunities to pursue in terms of like a career thing, you know, things that I'm going to be working on. And I think that I've almost come to the realization that of what I want my career to be, right? And there's a divide a little bit of career paths that would essentially be my entire life. Like they would take up like every waking hour would need to be like, it's a part of the job description,
sure,
right? To put your entire life into essentially that work, and obviously you're well compensated for it, but like that is your life.
That's it. Like
that is your life,
right? Which by the way is where a lot of people find themselves, today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I've had other opportunities which are still good opportunities, but kind of a little bit better work-life balance.
Sure.
And I think that some realization that I've come to is that I'm wanting to have a career which is conducive to the other things that I'm wanting to do in my life, which does not consume that. And I'm wanting to, have a family at some point. I'm wanting to be a dad.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to be able to travel. I'm wanting to be able to pursue my hobbies, to be able to create past just what my career is.
Right.
I guess like right now I've been kind of writing a book and just trying to step into that creation.
I love it.
And I don't want that to stop when I get a career, right? I don't want that to be everything I do every waking hour of the day. And I think it's something that I've had that it's a little bit countercultural. That's like, okay, like more isn't always better. Like just kind of chasing the next biggest thing does not necessarily improve my life. And so like when does it end? Like when am I going to be content? No, I have to be content in what I'm given now, not because of what my career is reflecting on me or what I'm able to be super productive or whatever, but I need to be content in the life that I'm creating for myself and not just the career that I'm enveloped in.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. Well, you're not waiting for life to happen to you in one day to experience the things that you're talking about. I love that about you. And I love that at 20, 20, you're already, what seems to me, and I'm sure most of the people that know you, if not all of the people that know you, you're already light years ahead and decades ahead of where most people your age are, and even beyond your age, in understanding with the wisdom and the drive to continue to press into some of these things we've talked about today. So I just want to say, bro, I'm so proud of you. I'm really thankful. I really count myself privileged to get to be a part of your life, to have, like I mentioned earlier, that window of just being invested during that season. But I mentioned this before the conversation earlier, but Holly and I have just felt like this, we better figure out a way to stay around this dude's life, because it's going to get pretty awesome to watch. It already is, but to watch like what you end up really like doing in and through him. So stay connected, and man, just be there, be around, be available. And understand that there's something really unique and special God's placed in you, and he just loves you, man, beyond all the stuff, special calling, because I think sometimes as I'm saying this live time, I feel like the Lord is even just like, hold on. Sometimes all that stuff can just feel like more pressure to have to live into it. And I just want to encourage you that God's heart for you is that you are a fully loved son, and you could do nothing else with your life from this point forward, productive, successful, whatever. And the heart of the Father for you is like he adores you, he sees, he's proud of you, he loves you, you're his, and there's nothing that you could do or not do to take that away. And so as you continue to run hard after the things that you want, God speaks to you, etc., man, I pray that truth and reality never leaves your mind and heart. That like, no matter how hard I run, God's not going to love me anymore. No matter how slow I run, soft I run, God's not going to love me any less. Because that's going to be the place that if you stay healthy there, that the sky's the limit. Yeah. The absolute limit. So, love you.
Love you too, man.
Proud of you. Thankful for you. Thanks for joining me today.
Of course. On
an episode of the Chase Merrell Podcast. What a treat. What a treat. Can't wait to see what your marathon time is, what your last little half of the semester in Oxford looks like, and to see you again when you get back hopefully the next time you come home to see you, it's going to be a huge blessing for me. So thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. With that, thanks for listening to the Chase Merrell Podcast. Until next time, see you later.